This is CBC Here and Now.
This college was supposed to train the next generation of union electrical workers, but that didn't happen. That CBC Investigates story coming up.
Well, yesterday I was talking about record-breaking temperatures in parts of Labrador, but temperatures are going to start to cool down for the island as we get to the end of the week.
It's going to be a bit slower this year, I already know that.
I expect to see a lot more from Ontario now. We got a few bookings coming in, bookings are picking up.
A week after the province opened travel to the rest of Canada, there's growing optimism for tourism on the Bonavista Peninsula.
But the region is banking on more than tourism this year.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Anthony Germain.
And I'm Carolyn Stokes. We begin tonight with a controversy that's been simmering for years. Electrical workers with IBEW 2330 have questioned their local union leadership.
And they've wanted answers about spending and other financial decisions, and that includes the decision to build a state-of-the-art college in Holyrood.
Supposed to train the next generation of electricians, but the college never got provincial approval to offer those programs.
And as Rob Antle reports, union officials were warned, but they went ahead and built it anyway.
This is how it all began. A big day to roll out a big plan. Workers digging up this site in Holyrood, creating the IBEW college.
There's no fear on our part that there'll come a day when this facility is not needed.
But according to government documents, it was never needed in the first place. A hidden truth union officials had been cautioned about then, but not unearthed until now. IBEW College was supposed to mold the next generation of union electricians, but it never actually got approval from the province to offer those training programs. Last summer, it collapsed into bankruptcy after never having trained a single student. Internal government correspondence obtained by CBC News tells a story of early warnings not heeded, about insufficient labor market demand for new graduates to support approval of the new programs. Government officials advised that the labor market outlook for the proposed programs was not positive. Nevertheless, construction began on the IBEW College facility in Holyrood in September 2015 without the department's approval of the school.
No more will there be a need for skilled people to be coming from anywhere else outside the province. That will stop. The best people in the world will be trained from this facility right here.
Strong words, but no approval meant no training programs. There were repeated applications to get approved, repeated denials, and soon, repeated questions and protests about financial concerns at IBEW Local 2330.
When you can't see the reports, the natural assumption is that there is something wrong. And that's what the natural assumption is here, that there is something wrong.
A year later in 2019, a forensic audit would allege problems. The local union was put under international control, and the financial situation at Local 2330 grew more and more grim. An internal investigation process, not a formal legal proceeding, was launched by the union. That led to 4 current or former officers being expelled for alleged breaches of the union's constitution. They were ordered to repay a total of $2.2 million. That restitution order mainly targeted 2 people. Local 2330 President Ann Guillen at nearly $1.6 million, and former local business manager Rick Dalton at $457,000. Dalton contests the internal investigation's outcome. He is suing for defamation and unjust dismissal. He says in court filings the process was unfair and he had no chance to defend himself. The union has filed a countersuit. Guillen and Dalton declined interview requests. But that's not the end of the financial turmoil. When the college went bankrupt, it owed more than $3 million to 2 other companies, both linked to Local 2330. The college's total assets at the time, around $18,000. Over the years, union dues went towards paying for all of this. There was even a 50 cents an hour fee that came off their paychecks, specifically targeted at building the college. Cash that flowed from work on Muskrat Falls, for example, when it was in its heavy construction phase. Problems like those have sparked protests like these in January.
We have no say, we have no information, we have absolutely nothing, and that's why you see the problem we have here today.
Now, more than 2 years after it took over, international oversight of the local union continues. The IBEW does, however, look forward to the day when the trusteeship of Local 2330 will be lifted, and the members will enjoy a financially stable local union that operates in accordance with IBEW management practices. On top of all this, the RCMP has confirmed that an active investigation is underway. Rob Antle, CBC News, Holyrood.
Well, yesterday we were talking about warm temperatures in parts of Labrador and how that temperature was going to drop and the potential for some snow. Well, that did happen in Voisey's Bay overnight last night. Sean shared that on Twitter. And if you take a look at the temperatures today as well, into the single digits, 4 degrees in Makkovik, 6 in Nain. Same thing for Happy Valley Goose Bay. That is a 27-degree difference from what it was yesterday at this time. So certainly a significant drop in temperatures. And the reason for that, this area of low pressure and that cold front that swept through. So that cold front is going to continue to sweep through parts of the island. That is going to lead to a wind shift. And because of that, we're going to see those temperatures drop. But I will get into all the details when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, a man from Sheshatshiu has been charged for a hit and run that killed a man back in March. 20-year-old Shwasham Andrew is charged with a number of offenses, including dangerous operation of a machine causing death and failing to remain at the scene of an accident. Andrew was remanded into custody. The RCMP say a man was found unresponsive on the road in Sheshatshiu in the early morning hours of March 13th. He was struck by an all-terrain vehicle that left the scene. Well, there are signs that the extensive search for missing hiker Jordan Natterer may be winding down in British Columbia. The 25-year-old, originally from St. John's, has been missing since Thanksgiving weekend after going on an overnight camping trip alone in the provincial park. Natterer's family has been combing the park ever since, along with groups of volunteers. Frequent updates on Facebook have focused on the mystery of the young man's disappearance and the ongoing search for clues. Well, yesterday, police confirmed that a volunteer searcher found a backpack and tent believed to belong to the young software developer. It was found in a remote area of the park, prompting police to resume the search effort, deploying ground crews and helicopters. Facebook posts from the young man's mother have taken a new tone. Josie Natterer wrote in part this afternoon, after accidentally losing the hiking trail in unexpected snow conditions, her son fought a courageous battle to escape out of treacherous terrain. She goes on to say that thanks to a large team of wonderful volunteers, and particularly a few of our most dedicated volunteers, Jordan's final path was eventually determined. Josie Natterer concluded her post by saying further information to follow as the formal investigation proceeds. Well, once again, there are no new cases of COVID-19 to announce today, but health officials are awaiting test results for crew aboard the Ivor Ambition anchored in Conception Bay. Here Now's Mark Quinn was at today's COVID-19 briefing and joins us now live. So, Mark, we learned yesterday that 12 of the 15 crew on board have tested positive for COVID-19. What more can you tell us?
Well, Carolyn, preliminary testing suggests that those crew members may have been infected with a variant of concern. Here's what Dr. Janice Fitzgerald had to say about that today.
So the whole genome sequencing is not completed at this time, but we have had some screening results back that indicate it's the Delta variant.
Now, people will remember that that Delta variant is the variant that's highly infectious and spread rapidly through India's population recently. The concern here is that it could spread through populations here that are not yet vaccinated. Now, Premier Andrew Furey says the province is doing everything it can to reduce that risk, and he says that the goal right now is to have all of the province's eligible population vaccinated, 80% of that population vaccinated by the 3rd week of August.
So, Mark, what could that high rate of vaccination mean for the province?
Well, it could mean some good news. It could mean that restrictions will be further reduced in this province. It could mean, for example, that masks that are now mandatory may no longer be mandatory in the fall. It could also mean that big events that attract thousands of people, like the Iceberg Alley concert series, that event could go ahead in September. Now, of course, Dr. Janice Fitzgerald is being cautious, and she's saying there are no sure bets right now, and we'll have to wait and see what happens.
With regard to what would make that not go ahead, we have to keep a close eye on epidemiology. So anything that we recommend that's several months out, we have to put the caveat on it. But that's assuming that vaccination rates are good and continue to climb, and that epidemiology is good, and we don't have big outbreaks, and there's not a variant of concern that's circulating. All of those things. So it's very difficult to predict at this point in time.
Now, Health Minister John Haggie did leave us with a note of optimism. He said that we still have some hurdles to surmount, but he does believe that the end of the marathon is near. Live in St. John's, I'm Mark Quinn for Here and Now.
Well, it's been a week since this province opened up to the rest of Canada, and in Bonavista, there are some encouraging signs with the phones ringing once again. Tourism operators are starting to feel optimistic. Here Now's Garrett Barry has this report.
It's a sight for sore eyes and sore pockets.
Yeah, we live up in Mount Albert, Ontario, about 45 minutes north of Toronto.
He was capturing whales, but in the tourism business, he's the catch.
Ontario, Quebec was always big here in Canada, right? And I expect to see a lot more from Ontario now. We got a few bookings coming in. Bookings are picking up.
The doors have just opened and Canadians are already dropping in.
We were anxious to travel. We were anxious to get out and you get a little shack wacky.
Bonavista just kept coming up in recommendations from friends and guidebooks, and so glad we came.
At last, cause for some optimism in this town.
We're starting to see an influx of more people through the cafe, and we're even starting to get a couple tours booked, which is positive. It's going to be a bit slower this year, I already know that, but at least we're getting interest in our company.
At cafes, restaurants, even hot dog stands, things are heating up.
It was very stressful, and it was very scary in a food restaurant side of it, but it just felt so natural, and it was just so good to be back at it.
And maybe there's even money to be made this year.
I think it's going to be good. I think the numbers are going to be smaller, but I think all the numbers, hopefully, are going to be smaller. So I definitely think we not only need to break even, but our goal is to have a good year.
Yeah, I'd like to see 50%. If 50% will be good for this year.
I'm a very positive person. I'm looking about if I can make it through this season, I know next season's going to be better.
Before the pandemic hit, Bonavista was sort of the it place. Tourists were coming here in droves. Well, coming next year, there's one big development that's sure to bring this town back into focus.
Certainly going to represent millions of dollars of investment, but most importantly, being showcased, your landscape, your natural beauty, and so on, in a Disney film, well, I mean, the province, the government can't buy that type of marketing.
Disney's Peter Pan and Wendy is going to be filmed somewhere around here.
I cannot disclose exact locations. We have signed understanding documents, MOUs, and we have multiple filming locations around the region.
He's betting when the filming starts and the movie is released, Bonavista will fly to the top of everyone's list. Garrett Barry, CBC News, Bonavista.
Well, a group of cyclists from Labrador West are getting ready to bike across Newfoundland, there we go, as a fundraiser. They're planning to start in St. Barb on the Northern Peninsula and then cycle across the island to raise money for a children's charity.
Now, they haven't left Labrador City, but they're already collecting donations. Here Now's Daryl Din brings us that story.
Kilometers for Kids is a team of parents who will be biking across Newfoundland starting on Friday to fundraise for Ronald McDonald House. The group was formed last year as a virtual fundraiser by riding around Labrador West, and they collected $16,000 in donations. But this year, they've decided to go farther.
Yes, it's a group of 6 women and 1 man came together to cycle across Newfoundland to raise funds for Ronald McDonald House. So we've been fundraising now for probably 3 months, 3.5?
Since January.
Oh,
Yeah, really.
okay.
Yeah.
Longer.
Yeah.
Time has flown.
Yeah.
And we're down to days now.
I guess for living in Lab West, anybody who has kids know that you have to travel to St. John's for pretty much every pediatric service that's required. We all know somebody who's availed of it, stayed there, so it's very near and dear to all of our hearts.
Donations have come from many groups and individuals around Labrador West, including these young kids who ran a lemonade stand.
We got $260. It was really fun and lots of people came. We sold lemonade, freezies, and cookies. We had 3 different kinds of cookies. We had oatmeal, raisin, chocolate, and just regular cookies.
And what did they like about fundraising?
It was really fun because it helps people and we wanted to help. We love this help.
The group has a lofty fundraising goal, but they're confident they'll reach it.
Yeah, we're hoping around 35,000. We're on our way, but we'll let that big number be revealed when we arrive there on the 16th of July.
The group leaves St. Barb on July 9th, arriving in St. John's on July 16th, biking over 1,000 kilometers. Daryl Din, CBC News, Labrador City.
Well, beautiful evening out there now. A little breezy though. We're finally going to see some relief from these winds for at least a couple of days. I'll get into the full details when I come back.
Welcome back. Well, hospitals in St. John's are blocked with patients, beds at full capacity. Elective surgeries are being postponed because there aren't enough beds for patients to recuperate in. About 90 beds occupied by elderly long-term care patients who ideally should be in long-term care homes. And as COVID seems to wane, more and more people flocking to the emergency rooms. Going to take stock now of what's happening in our hospitals with Yvette Coffey. She is the president of the Registered Nurses Union for Newfoundland and Labrador. So, Ms. Coffey, why are hospital beds maxed out?
Well, right now here in the Metro St. John's area, we have 90 long-term care beds closed related to registered nurse LPN PCA shortage. That is affecting the hospitals, the acute care hospitals, Health Science and St. Clair's.
And as for the occupancy rate of the beds, what impact does it have on the system when the beds are all full?
Well, the impact it has is that patients are backlogged in the emergency department on stretchers. We saw last week that we had ambulances not able to offload sick patients to the emergency department to be triaged and assessed. That meant that they had to get out-of-town ambulances to help with emergency calls within the metro area. We also have staff working to capacity trying to care for these patients in the corridors. So we're putting patients up, instead of having overcapacity, we've gone to double and triple overcapacity in the last couple of weeks here in the Metro St. John's area. It's having a negative impact on staff, but more importantly, a negative impact on the patients that are coming into the healthcare system.
Now, what about the nurses? I understand, looking at some of the research, that there's a global shortage of nurses right now, and provinces like Ontario are aggressively recruiting nurses. What's the situation for nurses and your members?
So here in Newfoundland and Labrador, we have almost 500 permanent registered nurse vacancies. That has doubled in the past year. So we have a provincial, national, global nursing shortage. Everybody is trying to rob Peter to pay Paul. PEI is another place that is actively recruiting for registered nurses. And here in this province, it is having a major impact. We have bed closures. We saw in St. Anthony a reduction in services. Yes, it was to help with allowing for vacation period, but we already had registered nurses doing 24-hour shifts in Lab Grenfell. We have them doing 24-hour shifts here in the St. John's metro area. Last week alone, we had registered nurses 4 work 24-hour shifts in this province. That doesn't, take into account the registered nurses on a daily basis going to work, not knowing when they're getting home, doing 20-hour, 16-hour shifts or consecutive shifts, or doing 16 hours, going home for 4 or 5 and coming back again.
And obviously it's exhausting for the nurse who has to work that kind of shift, 20 to 24 hours. And from the patient's point of view, do you really want a nurse who's exhausted taking care of you? What's the solution to this? Because what you describe, I don't want to use the word crisis, but it sounds very serious.
It is very serious, and we could use the word crisis to describe a gap of 500 registered nurses in a healthcare system with the poorest health outcomes in Canada. Solutions, there is no one easy fix to this. I can say that yesterday we did meet with the Deputy Minister of Health, and we had a very, very positive meeting. A lot of things that could help address the nursing shortage, like a core staffing review, or talking about a provincial travel team where registered nurses or nurse practitioners from within the province could take time and fly in or fly out, or drive in or drive out to areas that are very hard to recruit or are facing big shortages, to go in and help and alleviate.
So what do you mean, like almost a commando team of nurses to go to places like Bonavista or places that have shortages? Is that the idea?
Exactly. So that's the concept, the beginning concept. And we did get a commitment yesterday to start moving on a lot of these commitments that have been put on the back burner because of COVID-19. So we had a very positive meeting. The big thing that we are asking for, and we do continue to ask for, we need a health human resource strategy plan. We need to know how many registered nurses are going to retire in the next couple of years. How many registered nurses are we going to produce out of the nursing schools and where we are with that balancing act. So, and it's not just registered nurses, it's all healthcare providers and professionals.
All right, obviously a very complicated issue. I appreciate your candor, and I have no doubt we'll be talking again. So Yvette Coffey, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, time for a look at the weather, and a fairly nice day in our neck of the woods today in St. John. Sunny, but pretty breezy out there.
Yeah, we saw some sunshine at times, but that wind really, that was the story today. Certainly here in the east, some breezy conditions and some cooler temperatures for parts of the province as well. Let's take a look at the weather systems right now. We do have an area of low pressure moving offshore. And behind that, though, that cold front, that's really the biggest weather maker as far as changing the temperatures over the last 24 hours. We did see some sunshine through parts of central, but a little bit more cloud cover this afternoon. We're starting to see that clear out now. Didn't get quite as warm as I thought it would today through central. Still in a nice 24, 25 degrees for most of central, 20 degrees in St. John's. Temperatures across Labrador, 14 in Happy Valley, Goose Bay. That was earlier today because that temperature, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, has dropped down to 6. Still a beautiful evening across most of the island. 19 degrees in Corner Brook, 23 in Gander, and sitting at 17 degrees right now in St. John. So taking a look at satellite radar. Zoom in a little bit, you can see some of that, well, some of the showers did move through, just little bits of rain earlier this afternoon. We're still looking at that risk for the next couple of hours for most of central and eastern Newfoundland, and then all of that rain that's happening up across Labrador is generally going to continue as we head through the evening tonight. And then note what happens in and around Happy Valley, Goose Bay, mainly south of that, and then through Eagle River. You're going to see that chance of potentially in the higher elevations is more than likely what's going to happen, but we could see a few flurries as we head through the overnight tonight. The best chance of seeing the showers for the island will be for the northern peninsula as well as the west. Otherwise, we should actually see some clearing skies and a little bit of relief from the wind. Finally down, those winds will be out of the west, about 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. Temperatures in the teens overnight. As we head towards the west coast, we're going to see that wind shift in behind that cold front to northwesterlies, 20 to 40 kilometers per hour, and you're going to see your temperatures drop into the single digits overnight, and then that chance of showers continuing, like I said. So most areas should see your temperatures into around 6 to 7 degrees. A little bit further north, as your winds ease, skies clear, temperatures hovering around 2 to 3 degrees. You could see that risk of some frost overnight tonight. So if you do have some frost sensitive plants, I would wrap those up overnight. Tomorrow, that chance of showers in the southeast is going to continue for the most part, at least through the first half of the day. Best chance of seeing those showers, like I said, will be for the northern peninsula. As the day goes on, we should actually see some clearing skies, maybe a few pop-up showers in the afternoon through central and eastern areas. But overall, it will be a quiet day, and those temperatures are finally going to rebound for you up across Labrador back into the teens as your daytime highs. So taking a look at the temperatures tomorrow, winds out of the north, that means cooler temperatures. Areas in onshore winds will see temperatures into the teens, 15 degrees for St. John's. As you head towards Clarenville, 19. Marystown, you should see a high near 21 degrees. Again, that's because you're going to be away from those onshore winds. As you head towards Terra Nova, Grand Falls, Windsor, Twillingate, you'll see a high near 13 degrees. The chance of showers will be in the morning, and then you should see some clearing skies as the day goes on. Mix of sun and cloud, though. And then for Corner Brook, you're looking at about 15 degrees as the afternoon high tomorrow. Winds out of the northwest, not a whole lot to speak of, about 20 kilometers per hour. And then as we head towards the northern peninsula, you're looking at about 16 degrees as your afternoon high. Same thing for southeastern Labrador. Winds will pick up, though, out of the northwest, 30 to 50 kilometers per hour, so it will feel a little colder than that, certainly near the coast. And then temperatures for the rest of Labrador back up into the 19-20 degree range, even Nain seeing a high near 15 with plenty of sunshine through the day. The winds generally light out of the west, about 10 to 20 kilometers per hour. So that's a look at tomorrow's forecast. As we get into Friday and Saturday, then we start talking about the remnants of Tropical Storm Elsa. I'll get into all those details when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. 4 Fast Here Now viewers won the children's book that we gave away during yesterday's program. Jessie and the 7 Wonders of the World follows an adventurous child who travels around some of the great sites such as the Great Wall, Machu Picchu and the Taj Mahal, as you can see there. Jesse having a little bit of a nap. And our skill testing question for you, what we asked in order to win this book, it was, why was this in the news, as you shall see shortly. Our email exploded with viewers who knew the answer. Garrett Barry actually told you this on tonight's show. Disney is coming here to film scenes for the movie Peter Pan and Wendy. And the quickest emailers, the winners, Barbara Marshall, Christina Gillingham, Nina Gowdy, and Madonna Howell. Congratulations. Our people will be in touch with your people. Thanks for playing. This abandoned grocery store has just been sitting here for the last 10 years. It's owned by the Business Development Bank of Canada, or BDC. The only fresh thing being developed here is mold and rot. Another eyesore story coming up. We have another story for you tonight in our series looking at eyesores in the province. And tonight we're in Musgrave Harbour, where an old Foodex grocery store has been left abandoned for years, and some neighbours want it dealt with. All right, Steve, how long have you been living with this thing next door to your house?
This July will be 11 years.
It's quite a long time.
Yep.
And what is this place?
Yeah, it's a former grocery store and hardware store. It was a viable business at one time.
Right. And what happened?
I guess the last buyer couldn't make it work, I guess, and they just, I guess, gave up on it. And BDC took it back over, and they tried to sell it, and when they couldn't sell it, they just walked away from it.
So right now, the Business Development Bank of Canada is the owner of this?
Yeah, they're the lien owner on the, I think they're owed $150,000 in excess of on this.
Yeah. Now your house is extremely close to this property, right?
It's like 14 feet.
Yeah. Does living so close to this have any effect on you?
Well, I get the smell from a certain way the wind is. I get the smell from the mold and stuff inside, and I mean when it gets, you have a good storm and wind, I'm picking up shingles and siding and.
Right. How about with respect to insurance or any other practical?
I can't get insurance.
What do you mean?
It's too close to the house. They call it commercial exposure.
Commercial exposure?
Yeah. They won't insure me because the building is not insured, and we're so close, they won't even look at me.
All right. I know that there's nothing stopping us from going in there, but what's it like inside there?
It's a nightmare, twilight zone.
All right. Well, let's head into the twilight zone, as you put it, and
yep.
We'll see what it's like.
All right. If you want to come with me, we'll take a look. All right. Just stay to the side. You can see the mold and everything up on the ceiling, and the stuff that's been left. Just be careful and stay along the side there. I don't want you falling down through the floor. Look up through there at everything that's mold on the ceiling. This place out here, well, this is just a disaster zone. The floor's gone, missing. It's all black with mold.
All right, Steve, that's quite the tour of the inside of this place. Obviously pretty awful. How has the responsibility been passed around for handling this situation?
Well, I guess it's back and forth between Business Development Bank and, well, I guess they tried to pass it off to the town saying they didn't want anything else to do with it. But the town won't sign off on it, which I can't blame them.
Why not?
Well, it's going to cost, I mean, you're looking at $200,000 for sure to clean this mess up. And the town doesn't have that money, and they shouldn't be responsible for cleaning up a mess left there by BDC.
Have you tried contacting politicians, MHAs?
I've contacted Churns Rogers, and his secretary told me that they contacted the bank and they got nothing else to do with it. So, I mean, it was just left at that. And I've contacted Derek Bragg when he was Minister of Environment, and I didn't get much on that. I had the fire commissioner from Clarenville out there, and he done a tour of the building, and I mean, they went back to St. John's, and basically they just give information to the town on avenues to go to get the place tore down.
All right, so it sounds like it just never ends.
Yeah.
If this place is just left here like this, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, what's going to happen is what's already been happening. I mean, you get in the winter, during the winter time, you get a good storm wind the right way. I'm picking up shingles and siding, and I mean, you get a real bad storm. Nobody around here is complaining about it now, but wait till the roof blows off it or something lets go and ends up doing damage to somebody else's property.
Right, possibly.
So it's not only going to be me complaining then.
Right. All right, Steve, well, I hope that some good comes of exposing that this is the situation here in Musgrave Harbour. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Now, a few other notes on this story. The Public Safety Department tells us that the Town Council in Musgrave Harbour has the authority under the law to take action over buildings like that. And we also have a message into the town waiting for an answer. And the last known owner of the property was the Business Development Bank, as you heard in the story, the BDC. We have a message in with them. And the last known real estate agent, you saw the sign, Jeff Beaton of Beaton's Realty Sutton Group in Gander. He tells us that he listed that building 11 years ago after the bank contacted him about selling it, but nothing happened. Eventually, the listing was canceled and the building just left there to rot.
Well, historic news yesterday with the naming of Canada's new Governor General. Inuk leader and former ambassador Mary Simon is the first Indigenous person ever appointed to the role. And we have more reaction to this appointment tonight. And let's begin in Northwest River. Mary Sillett has been working to advance Inuit issues at provincial, national, and international levels for decades. So, Ms. Sillett, can you begin by telling us about your own personal experiences with Mary Simon over the years? How long have you known her?
Well, I've known her since 1977. That was the first Inuit Circumpolar Conference, and it was held in Point Barrow. And I've known her throughout the years. We've been in the same kinds of leadership circles. So I think when I heard the announcement yesterday, I was very, very pleased. I think many people were very, very pleased. I'm glad, she's an Inuk, she's a woman, she is a demonstrated diplomat, she's a very skilled negotiator. We're in a very difficult time in Canadian history. There is much anger for a lot of unresolved issues, and I think she's got those kinds of skills which will lend credibility and competence to the position of Governor General. So we're very, very pleased.
And what message do you think this appointment sends to Inuit and all Indigenous peoples in this province?
Well, I really think that people are saying, this is a different day. The kinds of things that happened to Aboriginal peoples in the past will not happen again. We will not disrespect Indigenous people as some of the policies have had in the past. I know that many First Nations probably don't accept that Canada is part of their country, and I think that's demonstrated by there's a lot of vandalism and burning of the Queen's statues across the country. I think that's representative, though, of anger. People are very, very angry at the thought that many of our children were buried without any consideration for them as human beings. And that's we know what the issues are.
And you touched on this already, but many people feel this country is in the midst of a reckoning with its past and present treatment of Indigenous peoples. The recent discovery of unmarked graves at residential schools has especially brought that dark history to the forefront. So how significant is it, do you think, that an Indigenous person takes this role at this specific moment in time?
Well, I think it's very, very important. I mean, it is a very, very difficult time in this country in the relationship of Indigenous people and non-Indigenous people. It's very, very difficult. I'm hoping that, and I think that the government is saying, something extraordinary has to be done. And one of the things that we can do is appoint someone who could, who is a known diplomat, who's a known negotiator. And maybe that skill and knowledge can help somehow in terms of reconciliation.
Well, Mary Sillett, thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Thank you very, very much.
Well, next we have someone who is also making history at Memorial University. Catherine Anderson was recently named MUN's Vice President Indigenous. Now, her job is to make sure indigenization is a top priority within the institution. So, Ms. Anderson, first of all, what do you think about Mary Simon's appointment?
I think it's wonderful. It's historic. It's just so wonderful for myself as an Inuk woman to see Mary Simon in this position. It is, it's emotional. It's just wonderful.
And looking at the big picture, some Indigenous groups in the country have different relationships with the federal government. Not everyone is on the same page. Do you think that Mary Simon, as an Inuk woman, will face some hurdles in that regard? What hurdles is she up against trying to represent all of the different Indigenous perspectives?
It's a good question. The position of Governor General as representative of the Queen is, there's a long history of colonialism in this country, and that's certainly something I think that we all question and grapple with. But Mary Simon, as an individual, as an Indigenous woman in this position, I think, as I said, will be able to bring a unique experience and be able to lead those conversations. It's not a political. She's in this role. She's not a politician. I think she will be able to really bridge cultures and communities, and I think she has a history of doing that, and I think she'll continue to do that in this role.
There's been a real spotlight on the country's colonial past recently. There were the calls to cancel Canada Day. Statues have been torn down. The horrific history of residential schools is being talked about almost daily. So with all of that as a backdrop, is anyone questioning the sincerity of this appointment? Do you think that there is substance behind this choice, or do you think that politics is playing a role here?
I have no doubt that this is based on substance. With Mary Simon's long record of leadership, service to Inuit, to this country, to Indigenous peoples internationally, that she was one of over 100 people that were considered for this position. I have no doubt this is based on substance. Some people might say that there is some politics here, but I think given where we are in this country right now, that we're reckoning with our colonial past and the complexities around that, that this is a good decision. It's a good decision to have someone in that position who can really understand from a lived experience the Indigenous peoples and cultures and histories of this country.
Well, Catherine Anderson, thank you so much for your time and for your perspective on this.
Thank you.
The president of Haiti has been assassinated. Jovenel Moise was shot to death in his private residence overnight. His wife is in critical conditions, and efforts are reportedly underway to transport her to the United States for treatment. The identities of the attackers are unknown.
The assassination of a man is too much, and the assassination of a president is condemnable.
Haiti's ambassador to Canada says the Haitian people are resilient and will overcome this crisis. The country has been struggling against a rising wave of political violence. There are fears of widespread unrest. Moise had faced fierce protests since taking office in 2017. His political opposition accused him of becoming increasingly authoritarian and trying to install yet another dictatorship in the country.
Well, still with this story, Premier Andrew Furey spent much time in Haiti before entering politics with his charity Team Broken Earth. The group offers a wide range of medical relief, training, and support to Haitians. Now, Furey offered his condolences earlier today.
I had the pleasure of meeting the president in 2017, and his passion and compassion for the people of Haiti was certainly fully evident then. My thoughts and prayers are with the former president's wife and family, and I'm sure I join many of Newfoundlanders who have been to Port-au-Prince and in rural Haiti doing medical missions as we express our deepest condolences to our friends and colleagues who continue to work in Port-au-Prince and amongst the Haitian population.
Ashley is back with a look at the long range and a bit of a storm heading our way. How worried should we be about Elsa?
Yeah, tropical storm Elsa. By the time it gets here, it's going to be a significantly weakened storm. It will have transitioned to an extratropical system, which means that it will have transitioned to essentially just a low pressure system. So by the time it gets here, we will see some rain, we will see some wind, but it won't be anything too significant. So taking a look at what the system looks like right now, it made landfall in Florida a little bit earlier today. It has weakened since then, topping off at 95 kilometers per hour right now. We're seeing some significant rain with that as well. And as it heads north and into our neck of the woods, looks like the timing will be somewhere around Friday night into Saturday with that track. Generally seeing a northwest movement, but it looks like this will be the track at this moment. It will likely change over the next couple of days. Now, the strongest winds will be to the southwest of the storm, which will likely see 60-70 km/h gusts, and the strongest, the most amount of rain will be to the north of the system. So as of now, this is what it's looking like. This will take us through to Saturday evening. This is early indications, but we could see somewhere between 30 to 50 millimeters. Some areas could see in excess of 50 millimeters of rain by the time Saturday evening rolls around. And again, those gusty winds will be ahead of the system. So Friday looking like we'll see some gusty winds down through the southern portion of the island, southwest, Port aux Basques area. About 14 degrees is your daytime highs. And then we will see those winds pick up later on in the evening for central and eastern areas of the island as well. So your first half of the day looking fairly nice though. Some sunshine, 18 degrees in St. John's, Gander 23. And then up across Labrador, you're looking at back up to 20 degrees for Happy Valley, Goose Bay. But again, that rain will move in as well. As we get into Saturday, the winds will ease on the west coast. That's because the system will have tracked north by then. And we're still looking at those breezy conditions for eastern areas of the island as well. 23 degrees in St. John's, but also those windy conditions. Again, gusts likely 50, 60, even 70 km/h in some of those exposed areas. Over the next couple of days after that, looks like another system on Sunday. A chance of some showers will continue, 20 degrees. By Monday, we're looking at temperatures around 23 degrees and some sunshine. May see a few showers in the morning, but overall, you're looking at a temperature near 23 degrees. After that, both central and western Newfoundland, Sunday looks lovely, 23 to 25 degrees. And then again, those showers for you for Monday, 20 to 22 degrees as the daytime highs. And then for eastern Labrador, going to keep that chance of showers in for Friday. Again, the most amount of rain will be for the southeast. And then into Sunday, Monday, once that system moves off, looks like sunshine, temperatures back into the 19 to 22 degree range. And then nothing but sunshine for Lab West, your temperatures in the teens. Wanted to share this photo. Flat, calm in Dooley Lake, Lab City. This is a great shot Jackie shared with us. If you have any photos, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca. It's not frozen.
Beautiful reflection.
Yeah.
Nice.
Great colors. Thanks a lot, Jackie. Appreciate that.
Yeah, love the blue sky.
Speaking of blue, apparently I missed the memo
The
tonight.
memo, yeah. It's the matching his and hers 2-for-1 sale at Piper's.
We did not coordinate our outfits.
Really resist.
Yeah, we're wearing set camouflage tonight, basically. Anthony and I blending in with the blue in the background. Anyways.
Well, enough about that. We'll see you tomorrow.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.